Hello, welcome, my friends. Thank you for joining me. As usual, let's start with some basic standing position, this very relaxing posture. Feel your whole body falling open, getting softer and softer with each moment. Letting all of the weight fall out of the body. One way of thinking about it is that in the way that releasing your neck allows your head to fall upward. From the waist up, it's this release upward and outward. And from the waist down, you are weightless, releasing down toward the ground. That's one way of experiencing it, at least. Gentle and easy, slow and comfortable. Releasing any tension around your eyes, perhaps in your forehead or between your eyebrows. Letting go of tension in your jaw, your tongue, or your throat. Softening the sides of your neck, the back of your neck. Feeling that sense of release upward growing until there's a kind of lightness, freedom of the neck. As I said, this upward and outward quality. Not because you push the head up, but because you let go so completely that there's nothing left to pull it down. And for today, this will be especially important. And so please do take the time to let go. And equally, of course, softening the shoulders, the front of the shoulder, the back of the shoulder. Feeling your elbows sink, your forearms and your wrists relaxing. Releasing your hands all the way to your fingertips. And as you feel this sinking and disinhibiting downward, notice that it sets free further your head and neck. Because all of this, which is normally piling in and contracting toward the center, is allowed to release outward. Softening your chest, emptying it of tension. Also freeing up your upper back, releasing your shoulder blades. Releasing your belly and your lower back. softening your ribs, your belly, and your back. Letting go of your glutes and your hips. As you continue to release your lower back, your tailbone softens toward the earth. Doing your best to soften your thighs, to let go of that space behind your knees. And remember, you're basically standing with your legs straight. Locking your knees is not straightening your legs, it's actually shortening, it's creating a strange angle. Instead, your knees are just unlocked enough. Your legs basically straight, enough so that it's easy to soften them and allow the weight to fall through. Because remember, there's this feeling of everything releasing down and through your lower legs, into your feet. Closing when you're ready. So first of all, welcome back. We've been at it over a month now. If you are new here and you haven't followed the whole series, I highly recommend you find the link down below for the introduction and at least day 1 of this 100-day series. It's a much easier place to start than jumping into the middle and assuming you know what in the heck this crazy guy's talking about. And so for the rest of you, thank you for being here. You are very much appreciated. You are saving the world. Or something, or at least loosening up your joints. And what we've been talking about the last couple of days are movement by leading or at least freeing the ends, the hands, the feet. And there's another end that we need to talk about, the head and neck, releasing this way. As I was mentioning, there's this feeling of this falling through outward, and then this falling through outward that way. And one common way of thinking about it, if I may use a little prop here, I have this nice rope here. If all of this was bunched up in the middle, and I had it here and I was trying to pull it open and disentangle and move things around, I can tend to just cause more problems because everything is closed inside this bunched up thing. And maybe I'll accidentally create a knot here or something, and oh no, what have I done? That the best way to work with it instead is to work with the ends. And this is a bit long for me, so maybe I'll hold this down here and this here and this here. And you can see how by, if this was bunched up, that it's much easier by going from the ends and pulling something long. Now the kinks have been worked out, that things are allowed to circulate and lengthen, because lengthening, of course, is referencing the opening of the joints, the releasing of the musculature. And it's a way of reshaping the body. And it's much easier to do that by lengthening and leading with the ends than it is to try to work in the middle when everything is very difficult. Thank you, my lovely assistant. And so that quality of finding the way through from the ends is particularly helpful at any moment. And we'll be going through this set, consistently releasing the head and neck, which is a thing that we talk about regularly, but I'd like to place special emphasis on it here. with this quality of the hands and the feet being disinhibited and allowing this direction to disinhibit as a way of pulling open and finding our way eventually into the center, which will be one of our goals. And so, let's start here. The softness of your hands informing your abdomen, helping it release as well. Both directions. As you release your chest and soften your belly and your back, feel how that creates more space for your neck to release. When all of this is tightened, your whole body is shortened. Whereas whenever all of this is allowed to release, movement and spaciousness is allowed through the middle. And for us here, it makes it easier to release the head and neck. Awareness sinking into that space, deep to the navel. Let's do a little bit of left, right, yin and yang. See the morning sunlight creeping in through the windows here. Gently releasing shoulder, the elbow, the wrist. Shoulders sink, the weight emptying through one side, emptying through the other. Empty and empty. The shoulders as well, emptying down through the arms, emptying. Making more and more space for the neck. The chest empties of tension, making space for the throat. Your upper back unclenches, emptying of that grip that our shoulder blades tend to have on our upper back. And as they slide down, it makes space for the back of the neck. And all of this allows the top of the head to float upward, to be free. Let's do just a little bit of warming up on the lower back. And a little softening of the neck. Continuing to release lengthwise. So don't fold at the neck, don't fold, release. Don't shorten at all. One side is simply lengthening a little bit more than the other side is lengthening. Crown of the head moving that way. Releasing all the way up to the side of the jaw, base of the ear. And then, snake, softening side to side like a wave. Notice the movement traveling up, and then the neck releases. Movement travels up along the spine, opening the ribs, softening and lengthening the side of the neck. You probably cannot hear it through this little microphone, but just outside my window here, I have a lot of water, and there is currently a flock, a gaggle of geese flying south for the winter. And they're hanging out and making a ruckus, chattering and talking to each other, side to side. And if you want to talk about a creature that has an ability to release and lengthen their neck, they are experts. White cranes outside my window. And then closing. Hands sink, everything sinks, releasing your neck, allowing your head to fall upward, lengthening like a crane. Then do a little bit of pelvic circling, softening all the way through. This space releases open and down. Try not to push your feet against the ground. Instead, have a sense of softness through your legs, allowing the movement to happen here without trying to engage the rest of your body. Instead, the movement ripples out through this open, empty space, even here up through your neck, which spirals gently. You don't have to try to make it happen, both directions. In fact, if you try to control the movement through your neck, you'll just get in the way. And then larger circles. The space through here staying more or less in the same place, continually releasing upward. Feels good. Both directions. And then releasing the upper spine, the neck, but also, of course, the space in the upper thoracic so that you're not folding your neck again at a hard angle. Continuing to lengthen as though your head is continually floating upward. It's just that up is moving in a circle. Both directions. Only as large as feels effortless, comfortable. moving your eyes around in a circle if that feels good to you. And then gazing down between the feet, especially opening that space at the base of your skull, lengthening and releasing your neck along the back, making space along the spine without closing your throat. And then let's go ahead and roll over the top. Continually emphasizing this softening long that we talk about. Remember, if I use any of these terms like softening long, and it sounds confusing, sometimes I don't talk about them in this class or this series, and so it may sound strange to you. But remember that I have lots and lots of videos teaching these methods, talking about these terms, and it's worth going through them in order. By the time that you do this series, I'm assuming that you have been following along with my learning system for a little while so that you know the appropriate method of practice, like softening long. Releasing all the way around, and then closing. And like closing, for instance. Your mind coming to rest inside. And if you are looking for more of that instruction as well, remember that over on my Patreon page, there is a huge collection, many, many hundreds of group classes where I'm talking with actual people and they're asking questions and we're interacting. And for some people, I know that it's easier to follow that kind of class than where it's just me alone. And so if you are interested in that, of course, please feel free to check me out over there or just ask direct questions down below in the comment section and I will always answer. I always want to help. So let's do a bit of shoulder release. Both directions. Both sides. Continually releasing your neck, especially in this moment here where your shoulder drops around the circle, falling open. That falling open creates more space and allows you to release further those lines and areas of the neck. So it should make it easier for your head to drop upward. Too often I see people drop their shoulder and their head comes forward, which means they're completely misunderstanding this relationship. The more you let go, the easier it is for the head to go up. Both directions. And also remember that if you're just sick of hearing me talk and you just want to practice this series, I do also have the silent version of this. It's in the playlist, so feel free to look for it. I know sometimes you just want to practice and don't want to hear me try to teach yet another way to let go. I get it. And then both sides at once. If you think that I yap too much, I'm talking too much, or you want to hear me talk more often, please let me know down in the comment section. That's how I'll know if people are actually watching this video or not, is if they tell me if they think I talk too much. Both directions. Neck releases. And then all of this released. Shaking out just a little bit. And closing as usual. Always returning to stillness. If you have trouble with stillness, usually it means you need to spend more time cultivating stillness, not less. And then snake swaying front to back like a wave. This movement traveling up from the ground, through the spine, propagating through the neck. The crown of the head is continually lengthening upward, even though you're changing upward slightly as you lengthen the neck in different directions. But don't shorten the neck. Don't pull down. And then tapering off. Hands floating up. Thumbs turning in, pivoting around the little finger. Palms sinking down. That helps to empty your chest, to soften your throat. So before we do some black snake, let's free up the neck. Opening along the left side, softening the neck, looking up, over, back, and down. Releasing along this line, continuing to lengthen upward. Don't pull down and fold. Instead, it's continuing to soften lengthwise, and you're lengthening along this line. release forward. And again, letting go, this falls open, finding space even to the base of your jaw and your tongue, looking over, back, and down. But don't close anything. Don't run into yourself. Don't shorten your neck. This is, I recognize, a completely different style of movement that I'm asking you to learn. So don't feel bad if it seems confusing or difficult. Allowing your eyes to travel around with the movement. One more. And then looking down in front, up and back. Again, it's very easy, especially with this one, to run into your tissues or your tension in that back corner or at the level of the shoulder. So please take extra care to lengthen around those lines, or in the very least, to stop before you run into any of those lines of tension. All of our movement avoids that running into ourselves feeling. Stay in the open zone of the movement. Closing. Thumbs turning in, rotating around the ulnar side, the pinky side of the hand and the arm. Sinking down. Crown of the head lengthening upward. Don't let your head droop as you sink. Releasing down allows your head to fall up more easily, remember? Loosening up, and when you feel ready, let's do some of the tech neck movements. Remember that we are releasing outward. We're allowing that rope to draw taut, not because we push out, but because we let go of everything holding us in. And we keep the shoulders soft, so the hands float behind the head, maintaining the length through the neck, gently pushing the head back into the hands, and then drawing the elbows back, lengthening outward, so the hands push gently into the back of the head. Vertically lengthening, horizontally lengthening, continually opening this area. Don't let it shrink or collapse. It's easy to do that, and then you end up doing a practice that makes things a bit worse. Now that we're past this 30-day mark, I'm going to continually increase the number of repetitions. But please don't allow yourself to become stiff or sore Palms turn forward here, and we allow this lengthening outward to disinhibit the shoulders, to disinhibit the neck. Palms fall down along the sides of the body, elbows touching the sides of the body, and you release your lower arms so they fall into this neutral position. And then again, gently rotating the head from side to side. Avoid using force or too much pressure. Don't dead end into any tension. Freeing up your neck. Be gentle. Especially when we're using our hands to help the movement, it becomes easy to overdo it and try to force our neck to pop or something, and we don't want to do that. When we press into the body and its tissues like that, as I'll keep saying, the body pushes back. It increases tension. It increases the habit of force against force. We need to find something different. It takes a little longer, but it actually lasts when we stop fighting everything all the time. We stop hitting everything with force all the time. Stay in the soft, open space, and then that soft, open space increases over time. If we're constantly trying to force the body to change, nothing stays, nothing lasts, because the body is teaching itself to push back against itself. That's what you're learning from that lesson. So, again, actually let's come up the middle this time. Palms turning down before the level of the heart, shoulder blades slide down the back, palms forward, palms up, gently pushing upward, crown of the head floats up, as we've been practicing. Tailbone sinks down so that from both ends you're lengthening the spine. And then gently, hands resting on top of the head, pulling down on top of the head so that the neck is forced to lengthen upward. Just gentle pressure to strengthen these postural muscles. You don't want to feel like you're doing a lot. Again, otherwise your body will tense up and feel sore later. If you're doing this practice, I assume you're tired of feeling sore all the time. If it's uncomfortable for you to leave your arms up in the air that long, perhaps you have trouble with circulation or other discomforts and pain, then always feel free to drop your hands down. You don't gain anything by forcing yourself into those uncomfortable positions. Just do it as long as you can while remaining as comfortable as possible for you. And then relax for a bit and go back to the practice. That's one of the nice things about being able to just pause the lesson. Come back to it afterward. And so again, lengthening up the spine, palms turn down, shoulder blades slide down the back, setting your neck free, lengthening. This time let's gently add pressure to the back of the head, and then looking up. Keeping your shoulders soft, as much as you can, maintaining the sense of length through your neck. I'll do 9 of these. Always do less if it feels like too much. Don't make yourself tense. If you can do 9 or 10 with complete comfort, then these postural muscles are probably strong enough. And just this regular maintenance is good enough. Finishing by lengthening and then releasing outward, continuing to lengthen. Let's do a bit of the frozen shoulder movement, looking away, and then rolling over. Make sure you don't duck your head or try to lift your shoulder up. Gently helping your head rotate with that hand. And then changing sides. Being soft and easy. Let's just do one more. As usual, if you find any of these movements especially difficult, or maybe they feel really good or really bad, you might want to spend more time with them. So again, pause the lesson, continue on with it until you start to feel like it's helping you. Stop before it starts to make things worse. And then that is a better way to continually heal your body. Let the movement go down. Crown of the head continues to release upward, but it's like you're shaking yourself out from the top down. Now that we've warmed up the neck a bit more and prepared it for the good twisting that comes from the black snake, twisting around the tree movement, a couple more preparation movements are helpful. Again, this one that draws up the side, shoulder blade sinks down the back. It's as though the hand comes behind the head. But again, I'm not pushing my head forward and I'm not pulling my shoulder back. Shoulder blade sinks down, turn your waist, palm sinks down. We'll just do this a few times, loosening up the shoulders. As the hand sinks, the crown of the head continually releases up. All the way through, the neck is disinhibiting. And then, similarly, Little finger turns up against the body, floating up. Shoulder releases all the way around and down. One hand pushing up, one hand pushing down. Crown of the head floating up. Tailbone sinking down, lengthening your spine. And then soften the lower hand. Let go of your wrist, your elbow, your shoulder, your chest, your belly, front of your hips, your knees, your feet, all the way down to the ground. And then again. Leading with your hands, again, as though leading with the ends of that rope to help open up all of the space in between. Let everything fall down and through. One last time. Shoulders soft, lengthening through the arms, crown of the head floating up. Keep your neck soft. As your hand sinks and you soften through your body, allow that to release your head up more. Don't let your head fall down. Let's do some black snake, twisting around the tree. Remember that because you're using your hand to help with the movement, don't add force, or you'll just force your body to tighten up to protect itself. Looking back, and then up and back, softening open the throat slightly. Looking down and back, softening open the back of the neck. Remember that it's the full spine that twists. Do not twist your knees, and do not let it get stuck in any one spot. Avoid running into your own blockages. Don't dead end the movement. Don't push as far as you can. It does not end well for you. Closing. Wonderful. Let's do a bit of preparation before we do the white snake movement. Being careful to avoid leaning back. And as you soften your shoulders, what happens to your neck? Which direction does the top of your head go? Do you go, or even more commonly, my hands go forward and my head goes, ugh? No. Instead, as you release and you let go, all of this has extra space and it becomes easier for it to float up. What we're trying to do is to cultivate something that becomes easier and easier. Both sides. It shouldn't feel like an exercise that you're trying to force, but rather something you're releasing into a natural state. That's how something becomes lasting, becomes your new normal. Shoulder blade slides down, neck is released. My elbow is coming pretty high, but you notice that my shoulder is not drawing upward. It's not doing this. You can see that space there. So only bring your elbow up as high as you can. Continually let your shoulder sink. Eventually that becomes much easier. So even if it's only here, that's okay. If your shoulder starts to creep up toward your ears, you've gone too far. Let go as much as you can, and then eventually the movement itself gets larger and more comfortable. We're trying to create the kind of posture relationships that get better as you let go and relax. The less energy you put into them, the better your posture becomes, which is the exact opposite of the kind of posture most of us are taught as kids, where you're trying to hold this uncomfortable position like you're straining, and then the only way to relax is to let go and to collapse. We want to find something else where we let go and everything gets easier, more open. That's a much better kind of practice. Everything we do in Qigong should be like that. And for those of you who do Tai Chi practice or other martial arts systems, it's the same thing, that if you have a correct posture based on softness and openness, not only, of course, is it better for your health and your mental health, but if you're pushed on or you're given pressure from the outside, what happens is that you become more stable, you become softer, you become more capable, not less. And so if, for instance, you're finding yourself when you get pushed from the outside in any direction, including down from gravity, that you become more unstable, more fragile, less grounded, then it's the wrong kind of relationships you're building in your body-mind. But instead, you build this method that we've been teaching, and the more and more pressure you get from the outside, all it does is help you feel grounded and stable. It helps you feel relaxed and quiet. We want that mentally, emotionally, so that the world gives you stress, and what it does is it wakes you up, and it lets you release more. So you actually become a better version of yourself, more capable in that moment, not a worse version. So all of these mental, physical relationships that we're creating, it's all the same. They all happen through this deep release through into grounded stability. And this is the physical way of exploring that, but it will help with all of these qualities if you're doing it right. And so again, if you have questions about this, watch my thousands of videos or reach out to me directly. but it is one way that you know you're on the right track, is if you're becoming more stable, softer, more grounded, more capable in difficult situations, not the other way around. Let's do a little bit of white snake. Hands sink, crown of the head floats up. Remember what I said before about releasing the hips as your weight shifts? Settling into stillness. And at this point, because we've been going for about an hour with this practice, maybe you need to sit down. Maybe you need to shake it off. If your shoulders start to feel tight from this movement, rather than becoming more and more soft and relaxed, then maybe it's time to take a break. Sometimes general fatigue is just too much. Maybe you've had a long day. It's okay, but don't push into something that's making it worse. Instead, often if you just pause, maybe just 5 minutes, take a break, walk around, lay on the floor, get comfortable, do what you need to do, and then come back to it. Oftentimes, you've restored and reset in a way that is most useful. Maybe you have a little meditation tool, like these guys, and you take the time to work open any knots. And again, I'm a big fan of doing this in the beginning, but one of the reasons I didn't start with this is I thought I would make a point of saying, hey, you've been at this for an hour. Maybe take a moment to release and relax. Go drink a cup of tea, walk around outside, play with a dog if you have one, say hello to a friend, and then come back. The video will wait. Of course, if you're continually feeling better and better as you practice, then it's better to stick with the practice because it has a kind of cumulative impact, but only if it's actually helping. And only you will know on the days when that's happening for you. Everybody's different, and learning to listen to how your body's doing at any given moment is very important. And so I wanted to take a moment to pause in the middle of these practices to say, hey, maybe you just need to loosen up a little bit, take a break, go to the restroom, whatever you need, come back. But don't hit the point of diminishing returns that now doing the next half hour of practice actually makes you feel worse rather than better. Don't do that. Listen, be wise. And if your practice is continually nourishing you and helping you soften, it's a good practice. And dosage is important for that. And only you can know when that is because I'm not there with you. If I was there with you, for some people, I'd say, hey, go sit down. Or that's enough, go home. I've done that plenty of times. Again, if you watch my other classes, you'll see me do that. Because people have to learn when they've had enough. And sometimes people quit too early. They say, I don't know, I'm a little uncomfortable, I'm bored. And so they quit. And so those people, I guess why I have this rope here and I tighten them. But those people need to add a little bit more fire to their practice and just try a little more because they will continually get softer. But only you know where you are. And I prefer to err on the side of softness, being gentle, because that's less likely to create problems. So, let's do a little bit of golden snake preparation. Closing, opening, continually softening your neck and shoulders. falling open. Changing sides. Turn your waist. Notice how quiet my shoulder is. I'm not doing this. Instead, it softens more. And then even through here, it softens further. It doesn't lift up. My elbow's quiet. My wrist is soft. Feeling the full weight of my hand as I let it go down, because I'm not hanging on to it. And then both sides. Remember that we're emphasizing this releasing and softening of the neck, allowing the head to float up, helping to release the space between the shoulder blades, to lengthen the spine. Slightly wider stance, like pulling on that rope that I showed you, lengthening outward, lengthening, softening. Even here, we're not folding in, we're lengthening around this way, continuing to lengthen, continuing to get longer. And then we'll do that all the way through Golden Snake, continually getting longer. Don't twist your knees, but do turn your waist. The weight pours from one leg to the other, if you're capable of that. Softening your lower back, the waist, the ribs, letting go of your chest and your belly, breathing normally. Shoulder softens, neck releases as your arm goes over. Don't duck your head. Taking the time to settle. Remember that the direction we're releasing through the arms is through, outward, lengthwise, letting go. It's too easy to hang onto your arms and just swing them. But instead, if you let them go and they turn around, they reach the end, they don't just come back out, they turn around. You soften lengthwise around, fall around the circle. It's a very small circle at the end. And if you just push your arms out and then pull them in, you're missing out on that moment of rotation and release at the end. And then both directions. Elbows sink, palms face each other. Just a few of these. As you sink and you soften down your chest, release your throat, release your jaw. Crown of the head still releases upward. Don't let it sag. Closing. Let's spend a little extra time on the turtle drinking qi movement. And of course, we want to do our little preparations first, starting with this direction of release for the neck. Full comfortable circles. Wonderful. And then another, letting the hips travel back. Remember, it's not about us leaning forward, pitching forward, but rather allowing this to release your hips and glutes and lower back, softening open, allowing the hands to slide down the outside and back, keeping your spine long. Notice that I'm not rounding this way yet, or I'm not arching my back. This is really common for people, or they kind of do this. Instead, if you lengthen from the tailbone to the top of the head, just like we are in standing posture, and allow the hips to travel back, only goes far as feels comfortable, of course, but you want this continually lengthening quality to the top of the head. The hands slide down, the hands slide up, hips push forward. And then softening open the front of the body for a moment, releasing your throat. And then again, just do a few of these, but do continually lengthen the spine, all the way through the neck. Closing. Then, allowing this sinking down, lengthening your spine, and then release along the back, softening the back of your neck. Tailbone sinks gently, and then leading with the top of your head and your nose, opening gently along the front. Don't close the back of your neck. And then we wave down. And just pause for a moment. Again, as usual, the reminder is to be careful if you have heart issues, hypertension, abdominal pressure, maybe you're pregnant. These things are different from everybody. Because we're dropping low for this one, I just want to make certain that everybody's safe. Please don't push yourself. It doesn't usually end well. Nourish until you get stronger. And again. Waiting for that feeling of rebalancing. If you don't need to pause, it's fine to just continue. I just take an extra pause in case people need it. Lengthening your spine through the neck, then release. Remember that this can also be done seated to great effect. And I'm slightly modifying it because I've been discovering that the way that I was teaching it before was not very comfortable for larger bodied people. So this is a modification for some larger bodied people, but I think it works just as well. Let's do a couple more, as long as it's comfortable for you. Remember this movement that waves down at the end. Closing. So that was the highest number of those that I've done in this particular series. Again, I waited until we've been doing this for about a month because by now most people's bodies have changed somewhat and perhaps they're more comfortable with the movements. It tends to take a lot of people that long. But of course, some people, especially if you're elderly or ill, it might take a little longer for your body to change. It's just how these bodies work. And so please be gentle. If I do too many of anything of the other repetitions as well, then just cut them short and do closing and wait for us to finish. It's all perfectly fine. And super robust, healthy people can, of course, pause it and do more. It's always good. Just don't do more than is good for you, and don't do less than is good for you. Find, again, that perfect space for you. Pay attention. Learn to listen. I'll probably increase the difficulty again after maybe day 60. We've been doing this for a couple of months. But I'll try to feel it out, and your feedback, again, in the comment section can be really helpful for me to know how to modify these classes so that I'm helping everybody in the way that they need to be helped. Today, let's do this coming up the center line, since we're emphasizing this releasing of the neck and the head upward. Softening your wrists. You can even look up for a moment, opening the front of the body. And then we sink down. Softening down and through your body as though you're gathering the sunlight, the clear sky, and it washes down through you into the ground. And then as though you gently gather up that earth, the warmth and vibrancy of the earth flows up through the legs, along the tailbone to the lower back, and forward into the center of the body. A couple more. Wave of softness and release traveling down and through your body, leaving behind it clear, empty space, ease and comfort. And then especially through your legs into your lower back in the center, allowing this sense of warmth and strength and vitality to flow into your body. Closing. So your hands and arms swing free. You don't want your arms to be left behind you. I know this is a common thing I see. But neither do you want to be stiff and have your arms fully lead. There is movement from the waist that then flings the arms outward, but you don't want to go overboard. And as the shoulders release outward, like we were practicing before, similarly, the head is released upward because this disinhibition of this space makes it easier for the neck to lengthen, if you're doing it right. So here your hands are striking jianjing, the shoulder well, the top of the shoulder point, and this huanqiao point, the center of the glute and hip here at the same time, if your hands reach there comfortably. And then for the rest, for this one, just kind of striking here around the waist comfortably. Softening. Falling into this effortless, open, standing posture once again. This time, though, rather than having your mind be generally spread through the body, softening and letting go, being quiet, instead here we're allowing our awareness to be more specific, to move into these spaces in our body, especially, of course, the neck and shoulders, allowing the awareness to soak through the skin, various levels of tissue, all the way into the bone. But also do be aware of the whole body, allowing the awareness to gently sink into the bones, or as best you can. It's okay if you can't. Just being quiet is good. And of course, for today, paying special attention to the neck, the throat, feeling as deeply as you can into those tissues, without strain or effort. Make sure that your hands are nice and warm before you put them on your body. Hopefully your feet as well are are never cold as you practice. Your feet should always be warm as you practice. And that warmth soaks in, helping the tissues to soften, blood to flow. If you haven't done it yet, it's worth watching the self-massage series, at least a couple of them, to get a feel for many of the self-massage practices that we do here at the end. And that way you can modify them, do more of the ones that your body needs. It just gives you a larger toolbox to choose the closing massage that you do, spending time on the spaces that cause you trouble or have the greatest benefit. especially where and when I am right now. It's wintertime, it's very, very cold up in the mountains. And so I spend extra time warming my ears, warming the back of my neck. These are places where the wind and the cold get in very easily. And so instead I rub them here until there's a sense of warmth radiating out from the inside, especially today because we're emphasizing the neck. But in general, if you're feeling cold or if you've been exposed to the wind, maybe you went out in the rain, weren't wearing enough protective gear, and now you have this sense of a stiff neck, spend lots of time warming and releasing, just creating friction and gentle pressure, and it should help to relieve some of those symptoms. Gently massaging and releasing along the throat and the neck, all the way down under the collarbone. You take your time. I'll try not to hit my microphone here. Up the outside, down the inside. Softening your shoulder, releasing your neck and your throat. Do just a little bit of shaking as well. Your shoulders. Don't rattle your head around too much. Shaking your hands. Being gentle if you have arthritic pains. And the whole body. Thank you so much for joining me. I very much appreciate you. Keep up the good work. I'll see you tomorrow.